Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the Health, Safety, and Academics panel. I'm Pearl, a sophomore majoring in molecular and cell biology. I'm also a member of the Cal Alumni Student Association, or CASA, the organization that prepared this awesome event. We have another member of CASA here with me.
Hi everyone, I'm Tina. I'm a second year. I'm studying MEB, Molecular Environmental Bio, Math and Psych. Sorry, my dog is going crazy. And I will pass it to Kevin, who's one of our student panelists.
Hey everyone, I'm Kevin. I am a senior studying computer science. Currently also minoring in data science as well, and I'm originally from LA. I'll pass it on to our next panelist, Julia.
Hi everyone, I'm Julia. I'm a second year studying molecular environmental biology and public health. And I'm from New York, so pretty far out of state.
Hi, I'm Izzy, they, them. I'm class of 22. I major in MCB, molecular and cell biology, and I minor in Chinese, and I'm from Los Angeles. And I'll pass it to Naz.
Hi all, my name is Naz and I use she, her pronouns. I am a senior majoring in MCB, so molecular and cellular biology and psychology. I'm actually an international student from Turkey, which is also very far away, just like New York.
I'll start the panel with a question, but then if anyone has any questions at any time during the session, feel free to list them in the chat or raise your hand in the participants tab, and then we'll call on you if you have your hands up, and then I can bring up any questions in the chat to the panelists. So to get started, maybe I can ask, how rigorous are the classes for your major, and how do you manage those classes?
I can get started. So as I said before, I'm an international student, so I'm from Turkey. And coming into Cal, I can tell you that the classes were very different than what I was used to. And the classes are definitely rigorous at Berkeley, but I soon came to realize that there were so many endless opportunities to sort of grow as a learner. I started taking extra adjunct classes at our student learning center, and also started to join tutoring, go to tutoring a lot, which ended up making my Cal experience much more easier. And it became so important to me that I went back and became a tutor at the SLC, so it's the Student Learning Center. So what I do right now is I teach study groups, so extra study groups for general chemistry, which we have a lot of those in all different areas within the Student Learning Center. So I would say that classes are definitely rigorous. It's definitely not challenging, but there's just so many endless resources out there and folks that are trying to help you out that it's very manageable. And one of those opportunities for me at least was the Student Learning Center, and that's not even all that there is in Cal. I think you'd be surprised to see how many overwhelming amount of opportunities there are to find resources and help. There's residential tutoring, there's extra tutoring. Every department has their extra tutoring opportunities. It's everybody's ready to sort of help you, which I think made my Cal experience much more fun because I like a little bit of a challenge. I think Berkeley gave that to me, and I also improved a lot as a person and a learner.
I can go next. Yeah, kind of echoing on that sentiment. I guess the fact of the matter is that the classes they're rigorous or challenging. So it's going to be, I guess, different from what you've done in high school or whatever. And it's going to be hard, but I think there's also, ways to manage that. So as a computer science major, projects can get long, material may be different and maybe new, but you can form study groups. There's been office hours and tutoring. And I think if you put yourself in a position where you're able to take use of the resources, it's something you can really manage. And, it's going to be a challenge. There's no denying that, but at least you can try to overcome that challenge. So there's definitely resources for that. And at least that's kind of the experience I had.
I can talk a little bit about that as well. I think one of the things that I realized in my first year of Cal was that we're all in it together. No matter how hard your classes are, all the other students are going to be struggling along with you and working through those challenges as well. And so you have that opportunity to find people that are really there to support you. And you'll see that the other students at Cal really want everyone to succeed. And we all really are reaching these huge goals or have these big passions that everyone will have together. And so you'll be able to feel really supported in your classes because everyone will be in the same boat as you. So if you feel like a test was really difficult, I'm sure most of the other class did as well. And so that feels like you're never alone in these situations. So even if it is really rigorous, you know, you must have done so much amazing things in high school to get to this point, to get into Cal. So you're ready for these rigorous classes, you're ready for these challenges, and all the students around you will be ready to support you as well when you go through that journey.
And just to echo what Julia said, not only are the students there to support you, so are like the TAs, the staff, and also the professors as well. Like office hours are an extremely helpful resource for me in classes like Chem 1A, which is like the introductory chem course. I would do like all of my homework and studying in office hours because like that way I could collaborate with students, but also like ask the TA like when I need help. And there's also like residential hall tutoring if you do end up living in the dorms, where just because you live in the dorms, they offer you support for like the classes that you typically take your freshman and sophomore year. Also, just general like course rigor management, because I do like minor in Chinese and major in MCB. I feel like they're two different types of learning in terms of like language versus bio. So I try to have a good balance between like half like STEM heavy courses and half like language or like social science courses, where I can explore different interests outside of both my major and minor as well.
Okay, let's move on to like another question. Have you used any of Cal's mental health services, and do you take time for self-care?
So I'm a health worker for my sorority. So it is through the University Health Services Tang Center. So I take a class in it and I am able to access a lot of the different resources. So one of the things I did to prepare to be a health worker was actually go through the counseling and psychological services, which is CAPS at Tang Center. And it is one of the big mental health resources that we have at Berkeley. And it is available for all students, no matter if you have the university health insurance or not. So it's an amazing resource to get access to professional care if you need extra help in supporting yourself through mental health resources. Everyone who lives in a dorm or who lives in any type of communal housing at Cal will have a health worker. So you will have someone that you can directly talk to and meet with to introduce you to those resources, to give you tips throughout the semester, which is what I do for my sorority. And there's tons of mental health resources at Cal, and Cal really does want to emphasize time to take care of yourself. As we mentioned, courses can be really rigorous, but taking the time to, you know, go on hikes or give yourself a mental break away from the computer screen, especially while we're doing online learning, is super important. And you'll see a lot of resources at Cal that will emphasize that as well. And prioritizing your mental health is super important.
We're going to have Joseph introduce himself. Yeah, he's also on the panel. Thank you so much for joining. He was having some tech issues, but he's here. He'll introduce himself really quick before we move on to the next question.
Hi, y'all. So yeah, my name is Joseph. Great to be here. Yeah, technical difficulties getting started, but I am a third year here at Cal studying conservation research studies and molecular environmental biology. I use the he, him, his pronouns, and I'm also here just to talk a lot about safety at Cal. I work with, I'm a community service officer, so that means I do stuff like night safety services, security at buildings, just like to really generate that positive, safe atmosphere at Cal, especially nighttime safety, which is very important. So I would love to answer any questions regarding those aspects of Cal if y'all have them.
Just to circle back to the question about just mental health resources, just to be fully transparent, I came to Cal with a diagnosis of depression and anxiety disorder. And I have utilized the CAPS resources all throughout my 4 years. They're actually free if you have SHIP, which I've been doing that. And I've had like a counselor that I talk to like on a monthly basis, and they've connected me with some amazing like psychiatry resources for like medication management and everything like that. So there's a lot of resources out there. And also as a like when you're a freshman and if you live in the dorms, there's always like mental health events, which I was like because I was really like passionate about sort of self-care and mental health resources, I also joined communities that like hosted these types of events. So there's a lot of opportunities to practice self-care, and that's one thing that I definitely suggest to incoming freshmen is just sort of getting down a mindfulness routine before coming into Cal, and before going into any college experience. I think it's very important that you sort of like take care of yourself while going through these rigorous classes, and it only just makes you a better person. And there's just so many resources out there, some that I personally have missed out on, and I just had wished that like had done before, so definitely utilize your opportunity to see a therapist, even if you're not struggling with any disorders or anything like that. It's still a helpful resource to always be in check with your mental health.
I think in the chat there's also a question. Do you find that academic resources like tutoring, office hours, research, internship opportunities can be limited or competitive?
Yeah, I can answer that question. So from a computer science perspective, like you might have heard, like some classes are large, especially the lower division classes. There's like over 1,000 students or whatever. And I think like you can put yourself in a position where you can use your resources very well, in the sense as project is due next week, but you start it this week and you can get help pretty early on and use office hours as that. But if you procrastinate till the week it's due, to be honest, then it's going to be kind of challenging. The wait times can be a couple hours or whatever, but you can put yourself in a position where you're not going to face that situation of waiting a long time. So I guess like the resources are there, but then it's just kind of how you use them.
Just to add on to Kevin, from a STEM perspective, first of all, tutoring, there's just so many tutoring opportunities and so many tutors that you'll end up finding a tutor. It's really not that competitive. Like I teach 2 classes, for example, extra for Chem 1A, and that's like those are all 30 people. So people who want tutoring, it's very easy to find just with all those resources. When it comes to research, it's a similar thing. There's so many different types of resources that you could go to. There's URAP, which is like the undergraduate research apprenticeship program. There's ULab, which is a similar program as well. And what's amazing about being at Cal is that you have access to both UC Berkeley, but also UCSF. For example, I work in a lab in UCSF, and a lab in Berkeley. So you have all these labs that are really in need of like volunteership and like research assistance. And there's just so much out there that you're bound to actually find something, even though a lot of people are doing research at the same time. There's always those opportunities if you seek them out. So I definitely like suggest that there's both, considering the fact that there's both UC Berkeley and UCSF when it comes to research, especially if you're interested in medical research like I am.
This is something along the lines of academic resources. Someone's asking about what the libraries are at Cal, and especially since we're on virtual, it'd be nice if you could explain, if you visited.
I think currently in like online format, some of the libraries are hosting like Zoom library space where people can like come and study for a bit. But there are so many libraries on campus. The biggest ones being Moffitt, which is open 24/7 and has like a coffee shop in it, and Mainstacks, which is like this large underground library that's full of books. The catalog is really big, and basically like if Berkeley doesn't have a book you want, you can request a book from like any other UC, and then it'll get shipped to Berkeley for free, like of no charge, just because you're a student. And for libraries, I would really suggest going to every library, like just as a bucket list check off, and see like which one is your favorite depending on location and whatnot.
I do want to add that we have 32 libraries. We have many, many libraries. So there's so many opportunities for you to go to all the different libraries, and each one has like a different, Tina loves Kreisky. Each one has like a different vibe. Some are more like Moffitt. There's no books inside Moffitt. You just go there and you study with friends. Or you can go to Mainstacks where you're surrounded by books and it's mostly quiet. It's 24-hour quiet hours there. Whereas Moffitt's like super lively. Kreisky is the engineering library. It's a mix of kind of like study spaces. You can also rent out group study spaces in all the libraries. So we have a huge library culture on campus, and I love it and I miss it. So I go to Moffitt all the time now because it's open. Love that.
And also to add on to that, a lot of so for like those people who love late night studying, the libraries are open very late. And then if you're like there and you're on campus late at night, there's night safety services that are available around the libraries. So there's a bear walk, which is the people who walk students home. They have a station in Moffitt for students who want to study late but don't feel comfortable walking home at night by themselves. there's also a night safety shuttle that goes through campus every half hour that can take you to basically anywhere you live around or near campus. And that stop is also kind of like in the heart of where all the libraries are. And so you can kind of just like study, and then you can look at the bus schedule and just jump on the next bus that'll probably take you close to either your dorms or like any other close to off campus housing. So it's great studying late at night, and the university provides a lot of services to make sure you get home safely after you study late at night on campus.
One of the great resources that Cal has is when you're first year and you're creating your first semester schedule, you have to get that schedule approved by a counselor or an advisor, whoever is assigned to you based on the college you're in. So they'll be able to give you advice on your class schedule if they think that your course load won't be very manageable as a first year. If they recommend a different class instead, they'll give you that advice, which is really helpful in order to think about things you want to think about when making future schedules. I know for me, when I first submitted my schedule, my advisor was like, you're not going to take 19 units your first semester at Cal. Let's not do that. So I totally reworked my schedule with the help of my advisor. And so that was a really great resource. And the advice she gave me is something I've used throughout the rest of my semesters as well. And you will have an advisor assigned to you for your time at Cal. So you'll be able to email them and talk to them through like office hours or appointments whenever you need to.
So I think each class is different. Like for computer science courses, a big part of your grade is projects. I'd say like homework and projects make up to 50%, and maybe like the other 50% is tests and exams and whatever. So each class is different. I hope, I guess, yeah, it really depends on what you're taking.
Just from a STEM perspective and social science perspective. So for my biology classes, it's mostly been about my tests. So for my biology, chemistry, all those like major science classes, it's mostly been like 80 to 90% of my grade would be like midterms and finals. And then the rest would be like attendance, homework, etc. And then on the other hand, for my social science classes, because I'm also a psychology major, it's been like sort of like 50 to 60% is tests, and then there's usually like papers that you need to complete, and those will be also a good chunk of your like grade. And so it's going to differ by class a lot, but the one great thing about Cal that I've experienced so far is that professors will try to make it easy for you to like understand how you can improve your grade. Almost all of my classes had extra credit opportunities, like doing extra homework, both within social sciences and STEM classes. So I wouldn't be too like stressed about that right now. There's always going to be opportunities to get good grades.
Yeah, and to add one more final aspect to that, a lot of my classes are research based, and so like a lot of the classes will be geared towards like an end of a year, like end of the semester, like research project or research paper, and then it's usually like you'll do each step along the course of the semester, and that'll like accumulate into like a final grade. And it's usually just like, and the professor wants to help you make the best paper you can, and it's really easy to like work with GSIs and work with the professor to like kind of develop those ideas and make sure you do well. And so, yeah, that's also like a other aspect. And a lot of Cal classes are research based too. So.
I'm in a little bit of a weird situation that not as many students at Cal do. I'm two majors, but they're in two different colleges at Berkeley. So I started off undeclared in LNS, then I transferred to CNR so I could declare molecular environmental biology, and then I applied to public health, which is in LNS. So it's a little bit of a weird situation, but I think advisors are really ready to help you figure out what's best and how to accomplish what you want to do. So if you have two different double majors, there's 100% ways that you can do it. It might seem like the course loads are crazy. You have so many classes to take, but with good planning and with asking for advice from people who have done it before as well, it's definitely manageable. And I think double majoring is an amazing opportunity that Cal offers. There's some schools that you can't double major between colleges, and that's something that I have been so lucky to be able to do at Cal. And that's a really great opportunity if you have two different interests and you want to be able to pursue classes in both of them and pursue degrees in both of them. And so, yeah, double majoring is 100% possible. It is a great option, and a lot of Cal students do double major.
I just completely agree with Julia, although I'm within the same college, so it was a tiny bit easier for me. So I majored in MCB in psychology, which seemed related because I'm a neurobiology emphasis, but actually it was like, it didn't have any overlapping classes because one is a very like STEM focused, biology focused major, and then the other is mostly social sciences. I honestly love double majoring because it gave me a much wider perspective on the things that I want to do in the future. So I want to go into research. Having had like social science classes like philosophy, psychology, sociology, and at the same time going through like chemistry and biology, I feel much more preferred to like look like at life in a wider perspective. I know it sounds very cheesy, but I didn't struggle that much just because also I think we also talked about this a little bit when you sort of balance. I think Easy was talking about it when you try to balance your more like social science classes with your STEM classes. It's actually can be a good break to sort of like read an article about society after like having been like struggling with OChem for like 3 hours. So I kind of actually found that more motivating for me. So it's very possible. And a lot of people double major. I have friends that triple majoring, which is a little extra, but it is very possible.
So I think, the notion of grade deflation, I guess people's concern come to be like, oh, if I get like a 90%, am I going to get a B or a C because everyone's doing so well? That doesn't normally happen. I think that really doesn't happen. Like if you get a 90%, you're most likely going to get an A. Classes aren't curved down, and that's in that notion. What tends to happen is that, to be honest, there are curves and there may be certain guidelines set by departments on what the curve should be, but that doesn't necessarily mean the class is curved down. So for example, in computer science in a class, let's say the class average is a 60% or 50%, and the class is curved to whatever, 3.3, your 60% becomes a B or something. You're actually curved up, so some people can say that's grade inflation. So I think that's where the concern comes from. Like people are worried that you're curved down. Really hasn't happened to me that much, maybe once or twice, but it's not the norm. So I wouldn't worry about that.
One amazing thing that I found in like Cal and sort of the environment at Cal is that I've been inspired by every single person that I met. Like I have friends all across the board doing very amazing things, and they're like sort of making me a better person, a better scientist, a better student every time I talk to them. I know I'm going very cheesy, and I know I've been very cheesy on this panel, but this is truly how I felt all throughout college, that I had so many amazing, inspiring friends that were doing very different things. I learned a lot about very random things. Like some of my friends will be studying geography and they'll tell me about like rocks, I guess, whatever geography people do, or friends that I've been studying history that like will educate me better on history. And although it sounds very although there's that stigma around like, oh, like Cal grade deflation, I've actually had never experienced grade deflation in my whole life, or like any like curve down ever in my whole life. It's like, I think that's a little bit of a rumor. As a STEM major, I've only seen curve ups within my classes. So and I think a lot of the panelists would also agree that they've never been curved down. I think that's like a little bit of a rumor that is going on. But yeah, other than that, I think it's the environment at Cal is, I would definitely say, very inspiring. You'll meet amazing, very cool people that you will sort of carry a piece of them throughout life. Okay, before I get more cheesy, I'm going to stop talking.
I can also speak a little bit to like the competitiveness and like that kind of culture. There's definitely professors out there who don't want to encourage that and will instead do like grade bins instead of a curve. And also there are groups on campus, like for example, there's one called Peace, and their whole purpose is to provide like free tutoring to like anyone who wants it, because like their mission is kind of to change part of like Cal's reputation as like competitive. So they're actively like offering these free tutoring services, and like people are holding like self-care workshops, like that kind of thing, to make things less stressful for everyone.
And one final thing to add from what I was thinking of competitiveness is that in a lot of cases, the classes are very hard. And because of that, students form study groups all the time. Like you'll have a lot of opportunities to study with like your peers in discussion sections. People constantly reach out to form like group chats. It's very easy to like link up and study with classmates, because it's usually the students who work together, and a lot of times, and that do the best in the classes, and that's kind of known. And so peers do a lot of group studying, which it's a positive environment in like a lot of the more rigorous Berkeley courses.
Some semesters are longer. I think there's more wiggle room if you do end up falling behind, because I've heard that when you fall behind in a quarter system, like there's not that many weeks left and it's harder to catch up. But in a semester, if you do fall behind like a week, 2 weeks, a month, you still have room to catch up and finish off the semester strong. And generally, it goes, I think, at a little more relaxed pace than a quarter system. And also for a semester system, you get to stick with like one professor longer for 15 weeks versus 10 weeks, which is good in developing those professor-student relationships.
Thinking about like no COVID, obviously there's been adjustments to grading. When COVID came on, we had more opportunity to take classes pass, no pass, which is when you just do not get a letter grade. It's you either pass the class or do not pass the class. And usually you'll pass the class if it's just an above a C, if you get above a C, but your grade doesn't show up in your like, what is it called, transcript. But in a normal semester, you have to take your major requirements and prerequisites graded. And then there's a cap on how many classes you can take pass, no pass. So you can only take 1/3 of your classes pass, no pass. But what's amazing about the pass, no pass opportunity, which I personally utilized, was that you can take like classes outside of your major that just interest you. I've taken music classes because I love music. Just pass, no pass. So it's not, you don't have to worry about the effort too much. It's more about just learning and learning a new sort of area. So there's that opportunity where you can take some like, just fun classes, add them to your schedule, just as, learn something new. So that's also an opportunity at Cal.
I lived on campus freshman year, currently on campus apartment junior year, and will also be living on campus for my last semester. So I was really lucky to live on campus in an apartment for several semesters. Normally though, it can be a bit, challenging because I think they would guarantee, or they used to be able to guarantee housing for first years, and then continuing students, the housing isn't guaranteed unless you're in a priority group. So the majority of students would find campus off housing, which is fine. There are lots of different resources and options for off-campus housing. Some of them are really close to campus, some are far away. I guess I'll kind of let like some other panelists talk about their off-campus experience because I've been living mostly on campus. But I guess the takeaway is just, normally second year, third year, fourth year, getting on-campus housing can be a bit difficult just because there's not a lot of availability.
I can speak to on-campus safety too, since that was asked. For on-campus housing safety, there's a lot of levels of safety for on-campus housing. So you can't get into a building that you don't live in. You use for on-campus housing, you use your Cal ID. That's only the students who live there have access. At night, also they have security monitors who check people going into the building to make sure that everyone who's going in is a resident, but you can also bring guests. So you can, it's not like only the people who live there can get in. You can bring a guest, and then when you get into the building, you can only usually get past the stairs or elevator with that ID card. So it's very hard for people who aren't supposed to be in the building to be into that building. And then outside of the buildings, there's a lot of levels of safety. We have the blue light system, which instantly like links you up with campus police in case there's something that occurs that you need that presence. And there's also security monitors. The CSOs, community service officers, do patrols around the units too at night to make sure there's no suspicious activity. There's no like negative presence that could affect the residents there. Those are probably the main points. Oh, and then for knowing what happens around, like if there's like crime, theft going on, there's a lot of different ways you can be alerted of like stuff that's happened in Berkeley. You can sign up for Nixle, and so get those Berkeley like alerts of like if there has been any crime that's happened. There's also a crime mapping website for Berkeley. You can also, the university police use Warn Me a lot. So if there's like an urgent thing that the students need to know that's happening, that's like affecting an area near campus, you'll get an email about that pretty immediately. And there's also a campus emergency website. So you have a lot of different ways to monitor and check how, like, if there is anything going on that you should be aware of.
Back to housing, there's also other off-campus housing options that are affiliated with Berkeley but aren't the Berkeley dorms. For example, like Berkeley has co-ops that you can live in, cooperative living, and next year I'll be living at iHouse International House. So that's really cool if you want to live in a community of like international students and scholars, and it has really good food. There's also like Bowles Hall. I'm not really sure what it is, but it's like a castle and it has a really great community. There's like those types of communities around too if you still want to be, if you don't want to go apartment hunting, but you do not want to live in the dorms as well.
I think one of the biggest things that I tell incoming students or people who are struggling with the transition to Cal is to cut yourself some slack. It is a super hard transition going from high school to college, no matter what college you go to. And adding on the fact that Cal is a top tier college, it is difficult. And it might be a hard transition, especially if you're coming from out of state or you're coming from a high school where you weren't challenged as much as you will be at Cal. So just feeling like it's okay to struggle in the beginning. It's okay if you don't do incredibly well in your first semester. Everything will be fine. You have 4 years at Cal, and there's so many resources that will help you adjust. Finding that support system and those people that will really help you and be there for you when you're struggling is the best way to transition. I know for me, my first semester was like, what am I doing here? Like, I do not fit in. I have major imposter syndrome. Like, I don't feel like I'm good enough to be at this school. And it took about a year for me to feel like, hey, I belong here. I got into the school and I will keep pushing through to make sure that I can succeed and do the best I can in everything I am doing. So just cut yourself some slack, do the best you can, and everything will be okay.
I just completely agree with Julia. One of the biggest regrets I had is that I put a lot of I have pressure on myself during my freshman year to like academically be super duper rigorous, to start like super small. I got so obsessed with my classes, but there's just so many cool things at Cal. I regret not joining more clubs, going to the RSF more, taking like there's like dance classes at RSF that you can take, doing things that make me happy and finding those like support system, those friends. There's a lot of fun stuff at Cal too, and I think it would be a mistake to go into your freshman year and just trying to be fully focused on academics when there's so much that you can explore. You're also going to be like, you're also like 18, 19, you're just discovering yourself, really taking that opportunity, have fun, like getting to know yourself, especially during your first year as a freshman. I really feel like I could have done much more, explored much more, gone to SF, like traveled a little bit more, because, as you become upperclassmen, it does get harder and harder to sort of explore and branch out. But I definitely recommend taking classes a little bit outside of what you might end up doing, and joining different clubs to see what really fits you, and sort of exploring your options out there. And in the end, do not stress too much about academics, because it does always end up like working itself out. There's so many resources that you can utilize. I wouldn't really miss out on all the amazing opportunities to make friends and learn more about different fields.
I think one advice is, I was afraid of professors like coming in. I would be like so scared to go to their office hours. Don't be afraid of your professors. Like, they want to know their students as well. Like, they want to know the people who like they're talking to, even if it's like a really large class. And also one thing that I did as a freshman is like seek mentorship, and there's a bunch of mentorship programs. Like when I was a freshman, I did this one called like Queer Cal Pals, where I was matched with like an older upperclassman student who like checked in with me about like academics, like how I was doing, like health wise, just generally like how my transition was going. I also did like through the Taiwanese American Student Association, they have a freshman mentorship program called like Meet Fresh. So I was able to like connect with someone there also who was able to like help me like adjust to things. Like when I took my first midterm, I got a bad grade. So I was like, oh no, like I'm gonna fail this class. And then my mentor was like, no, like that's only one test. You have plenty of time to pick it back up, and like help me like really ground myself after that.
I think the culture at Cal is there's so many different types of students, and the population is so diverse and all with different passions and interests. So you'll be able to find people who have the same interests and passions as you, no matter where you're living. in whatever dorm. I met my best friends in my dorm my freshman year, and I live with a bunch of them now in my sorority, which is really awesome. I think for parties, you don't have to go to parties if you don't want to. It's 100% like a personal choice. There's a lot of students at Cal that are here to really do well in academics and will focus on that, and that's good. And there are some students who will want to go out to parties, and that's good as well. It's 100% who the people you surround yourself with and the people that you want to build relationships and make friends with. There's a good dynamic between students who do go out and party on the weekends and are not that party vibe, and they still have tons of fun doing other things. So no matter what you want to do, you'll definitely be able to find people at Cal that have the same values and interests as you.
Cal is huge. I have a friend group that I primarily just go play board games with. I have a friend group that I like go to bars with. I am 21. I have a friend group that sometimes we'll just go on, picnic dates. It's like you'll find a niche for you. There's so many students with clubs, meeting people in the dorms. You end up finding all the people to that you'll relate with. So there's no necessity to go to parties or go to bars. There's no necessity to go to board game nights. You'll find the people that you'll have fun with eventually. Just as like if you're out there and like just looking for friends, there will always be someone.
And to add on to that, on the club aspect of it, there's a lot, like there's basically a club for anything you're interested at Cal. And those clubs are a great way, and those organizations are a great way to get to know people. And most organizations do like socials and do like member bonding events. So just like, there's so many different ways to meet people with similar interests, or with like, there's basically anything you want at Cal, you could find in clubs and organizations. And it's so great. Even if you didn't major anything and just focus on clubs, you still couldn't do everything. So it's a great time.
And just kind of echoing what Joseph said, I think majority of my friends I've met and I've kept in touch with are actually through clubs and other organizations on campus. So I really encourage you, like first, second, third week, there's Club Rush. I think they call it Calapalooza. It's been a bit, I forgot. And like, you can visit these clubs. They have booths, they have info sessions. Try to, join these clubs. Some of them have applications which you can apply to. And I think having a really strong support group is really important throughout your college. So I got that from joining different clubs. And I think that's something everyone should consider as well.
Me as well. I've found a lot of friends and met so many different people I wouldn't have met otherwise through clubs. So most of the people that I talk to are outside, like by major and minor. So my main friend group is people of all different majors, and we've just met through like various things. Like maybe you just sit right next to each other at the same coffee shop, and one day you talk and you become friends. Like there's a lot of way to get involved. Also, I did see in the chat there was a couple questions about like trans resources and also LGBTQ health resources on campus. And I can speak to that really quickly. So for trans resources, we have a trans healthcare team at Cal, and you can talk to them about like starting treatment and whatnot through UHS. And we also have a trans support group called TCAL that's run by students and also has a trans specific social worker. We also have a health cabinet on campus where you can get like free like transition supplies items like binders and packers through Queer Lines Resource Center. And there's a lot of trans people on campus, and within things like TCAL and the trans healthcare team, you can learn about like the different ways to access like different like health things. Like for example, there's people who've gone through Planned Parenthood to get hormones versus some that choose to go through like the Tang Center, which is the health center on campus. In UCSF, which is just across the bay, is one of the leading hospitals in trans healthcare in the US. So that's really good for a lot of people go there for various things as well. And as far as LGBT resources go, as far as like mental health and counseling, most of the counselors, or at least like 50% or something of the counselors on that are at Berkeley are queer identified. So like they're definitely a really good resource when it comes to mental health. I co-lead Queer Alliance Resource Center, which is an organization that deals with like queer advocacy and like resources and space. So we help provide some of that on campus. So you can also like check there, but basically those are just some of the resources, health and wellness resources that are available. Also, the Gender Equity Center and Queer Alliance Resource Center in like next week or the week after are hosting a series of panels on stuff like LGBT undergrad life at Cal, health resources, queer specific housing resources. So that would probably be really good for some of y'all to go to.
I think it's different for each college. For the Letters of Science, which is the one I'm in, I believe, and definitely check with your advisor. So check with your advisor when you come here. I think so for reading and comprehension, like the AP English tests, they transfer over. You can't use AP like tests as a just kind of like a rule of thumb to cover like lots of the major classes or like your breaths. It's just general rule of thumb. Definitely check with your advisor again. But they do cover, I think, unit credit. So what that means is that, for example, you need 120 units to graduate, and you took 4 AP tests that are worth, I don't know, 16 units. You can subtract that from 120. That's what I did. So I didn't need to take 120 to graduate. But each school is different. So, and the rules sometimes change. So definitely double check.
I think it also depends on the type of unit you're trying to transfer. For me, I did college classes when I was in high school. So I came into Cal with my associate's degree and all of my credits transferred. So they didn't cover my classes that I have to take here, but I'm already a senior and I'm a second year. So those credits definitely help with not worrying about not having enough units to graduate or not having enough units to enroll in a class. So other than AP credits, if you're coming in with college credits like that you dual enrolled when you were in high school, those are usually accepted by all of the colleges. They just might not cover the lower division or upper division classes that you're looking to take for your major.
If you're ever unsure, I would check with your academic advisor. There's certain things like, for example, if you're pre-med, even if you got 5s in like AP like Lit, AP Lang, you still have to take 2 semesters of like English or writing heavy course in college. So you would have to look for them. You might have to take like R1A and R1B or do another English class. So just really make sure that whatever you do is in line with what you might be doing after.
Also, a great way to check to kind of add on to that about which courses could be accepting of it. Usually if you look up the major that you want to do, they have, if it's possible, to replace any courses on the specific major sites as well.
But I'm in a sorority. No, it looks like everyone's shaking their head, but just me. I'm in a sorority. I live in my sorority now. I'm on the executive committee of my sorority, so I'm very involved as well. My job, as well as being the health worker for my sorority, is basically managing my house. So I deal with a lot of the safety precautions and things that we do to make sure that the women who live in our house are safe. I've really enjoyed living in Greek life and being in Greek life. I think being able to have a really good community is one of the best things that I had. When I first came in, didn't really have any friends. I came from New York. I didn't know anyone here. And being in Greek life allowed me to meet so many amazing women, so many people that really inspire me and push me to be my best self, have helped me get out of my comfort zone in situations, like be more comfortable in social situations, talking to people, meeting people, which has been really amazing. And I really love living in Greek life as well. It's an awesome opportunity outside of living in the dorms. If you're not looking to live in on-campus housing after your first year, I moved into Greek life, into my house last semester, and I was able to live here during the pandemic with all of my friends, which is really awesome. And yeah, other than that, Greek life is just a great opportunity to be in a community, feel like you're in a little smaller section of our large campus, and really meet some amazing people and do some super fun things.
I'm not in Greek life, but I've noticed that there are a variety of like fraternities and sororities you can get involved in. Like there's pre-professional, like pre-health and pre-law ones. There's a queer sorority and like queer fraternity. There's like business related, like environment related. So there's like a variety depending on like what kind of community you might want to be in if you are interested in Greek life.
I guess
There's
sorry.
No, Kevin, go ahead. Hi.
Just, I guess one thing to kind of touch on really quickly, I'm not in Greek life, but I think something I saw during freshman year was that this pressure to rush like very first semester. I don't think that's necessarily the case. You can take your first semester joining other clubs or whatever, just getting yourself into Cal. And then your second semester, you can also rush. You have spring rush as well, or even your second year. I've seen people rush your second year. So like, I guess don't feel pressure to do one thing right away. That's just my advice for that.
I was just going to say one thing in addition to what Kevin said. There was a question about how many hours people spend studying. So I'm wondering if one or two of you can kind of walk us through a typical day in your life. Maybe when you were, I think we're intended to be on campus in the fall. So maybe think about that, a typical day. What time do you wake up? How many hours do you spend studying? Give us an idea of that.
I can go ahead with somebody with a part-time job and like a double major. So basically I'm very bad. I will skip my 8 a.m.s. I'm so sorry, but their course, they're recorded, I swear. I've watched the recordings, I swear. So I usually have like tops three classes that are either like 1 to 2 hours each. There's also Berkeley time, so classes are actually like 50 minutes or 110 minutes. So I'll attend those classes. In between, I'll try to go to libraries to study with my friends. I really enjoy just like, going to class and then like meeting with my friends in the library, studying for those 2-3 hours together, maybe grabbing lunch, and then going to my other class that may be in the afternoon. After I finish that class, I'll usually try to go maybe like work out. We go to the RSF, which is also in campus, and I usually teach study groups in the evenings. So 68, I'll be like teaching study groups. I'll go back to my dorm/house, relax a little bit, have like dinner with my housemates or roommates. And then if it's a weeknight, I'll probably end up studying till like 11, 12, which my house is this very like, we are all like night people. So we'll end up studying till 10, 12, and won't get up till 10, 11. And if it's a week, if it's like a Friday night or something, I'll usually go out with my friends, whether it be a board game night, maybe just go to a party and just like have some fun on a regular weekend. And if there's a midterm coming up, obviously I'll spend more time studying for that particular class. But I've been able to, just juggle classes along with a job and also just some fun time pretty easily throughout my 4 years.
I can talk about, sorry, I was just saying I can talk about my CS experience and like what it was like an average day or week. Typically, I think, like first, second year, lower division, not going to lie, there's a lot of studying, lots of working on projects, trying to get things out right. So typically like, I would say like, I like to study in the evening hours. So like, that's where a lot of the work for me kind of gets done. But during the day, I like to go on hikes with people. There's a lot of good hiking trails. On the weekends, I like to, try different restaurants, try different things. There are lots of places to go in downtown and stuff. So I definitely set aside time like on the weekends or stuff like that to explore. But, there's a lot of time also dedicated towards trying to get things to work. I guess it's really just finding that balance that works for you.
For me, I was involved with like research when I was on campus, and I would kind of schedule my day around my research. So I would wake up 8 a.m., eat breakfast, go to my research lab, do something for 1 hour. Then while my research experiment is running for like a couple hours, I would time it with the couple hours I have class. So that way when I finish class and like finish lunch, I could go back and like finish up the research experiment I was working on. And then when I wasn't doing those two, maybe I was like relaxing on a bench, studying at the library, going to a club meeting, and then just like going to sleep around like 11 and stuff like that. That was a little unspecific, but I hope that helps.
That was great. Joseph, did you want to do another one? A little day in your life?
I was just going to say, since I'm a very night owl oriented person, because my job, I usually work to 3 or 4 a.m., like walking students home. and just that. So I'm like on kind of the opposite side of things. I also, I'll usually sleep in a little bit more. I also miss all my morning classes usually. But a great thing about Berkeley is that we have course capture. So like most things are recorded. So I go back and watch them all the time, especially in those undergrad lower divisions. Like the gen eds, they have like it's giant classes. They're like 500 to 600 people sometimes, especially if like for Chem 1A, Math 10A, all that's like. So then those are usually course captured, and I just watch them sometime else during the day. So I'll probably sleep in and then go to like some afternoon labs. I also I work at the Lawrence Hall of Science. The campus provides a lot of really cool on-campus jobs that are even like off campus too. So it's so like definitely if you want to work an on-campus job and there's definitely something out there that fits your schedule. I'd like to be a night owl. So like working night security works well for me. And I love interacting with people. So Lawrence Hall of Science is like an interactive science museum up in the Berkeley Hills. So then I work that too, and that's also on campus. But then so I take the bus up there. I'll probably do a little bit of reading, do a little bit of studying on the way up, work my shift, come back down, and usually pack like meal prep is a big thing for college. So like a lot of people like making sure, because you spend probably like all day on campus a lot of times, and so just making your meals at the beginning of the day or like beginning of the week, and then just being able to take those on campus with you and eating as you go. And then usually, yeah, my schedule, as you can tell, is probably a little bit more chaotic, but definitely taking it stride. It's very easy to, what I love about Cal is moving around your schedule, making things flexible. It's very easy to overlap stuff, like as was mentioned before, like if you're doing research, doing like if you have to have like the stuff running, you can do class, you can study. If you're at work, you can study at your break. Like it's so easy to overlap and mix your schedule. Basically whatever you want to do, you can probably make work in a very chaotic college environment.
Thank you so much. So much for that response. I do want to mention one thing. If the panelists are comfortable, can you drop your emails in the chat for students with specific questions for each of you? Because we didn't get to everything, but I know that there's going to be some specific questions. So please drop your emails. Berkeley has 3 E's, lots of E's. Perfect. And then I'll have Pearl wrap things up.
Cool. Thank you everyone for coming here to the Safety, Health, and Academics panel. We're so happy and glad to have you here. And I also want to take a moment to thank all the panelists for joining us and for giving us their, telling us about their experiences and sharing their wisdom with us. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you.